And hi, guys, welcome back to another segment of Unmasking the Truth. And first of all, let me do my disclaimer. Everything and anything I'm about to talk about or say is all me, just me. I was not influenced by anybody in any way, shape, or form. And today, it gives me great pleasure to have, oh my gosh, Miss Patricia here as my guest. And I'm telling you, this lady, I don't know, she's been a I don't know how to start this off, guys, because I just feel so like let me tell you, I'm going to try to paint you guys a picture of the relationship that me and this lady has, and you're going to be dumbfounded because when I talk about as a caregiver working in long-term care and you meet family members of your residents, some folks says, oh, they don't really, they're not too much into family members and whatnot. But then you have the family members that no matter what, you just want to hang on to them and you don't want to let them go. So I'm just gonna let Patricia introduce herself and tell me just a little bit about herself. A little bit, not too much. And yeah, so here she is, and I want to say thank you so much for coming today. It means the world to me. And I just want people to get a sense of how a family member felt during the height of the pandemic, having a loved one in long-term care and having to deal with the stress, because a lot of us really don't know. We are all seeing things from our eyes, but I want you guys to have a glimpse of what the reality was from her eyes. So Patricia,
Thank you so much, my dear. Thank you for inviting me. You are a wonderful, fantastic individual. I have nothing but good things to say about you and what you've done for my father. I'm sorry if I get a little emotional.
And that is fine. I'm going to action mark.
Yeah.
Can you please grab me a
little
paper towel over
emotional. But as you know, my father was part of, I can say the name?
there? Yeah, no, if you don't feel comfortable in saying the name, we don't have to say the name.
Where you work.
Where I work, and it's a long-term care facility, and it's for profit.
Yes,
right?
For profit.
Right.
Which I didn't know about until this whole pandemic came about.
So what I want to ask you is, so I guess when your father needed that extra care that you weren't able to give, and you were scoping out places to to admit him in, you weren't aware of the for-profit or the non-profit?
Unfortunately not.
Oh.
I tried to do my best when it came to homework. My father was in the hospital for 8 months as he had a fall and caused him to have a paralysis, and he was paralyzed, at which point we realized that he was a two-person assist.
Yes.
When he was in the hospital, they were not able to put him on a crisis list, which meant to find a place immediately quicker because he had to be somewhere in the community. But where in the community do you put a person who is completely paralyzed and have no assistance? I came to know of this particular place through my aunt and uncle, who had another friend who was in this particular place. A lot of places were 3 to 5 year wait list.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit very, very stressful.
Mm-hmm.
And the hospital was putting pressure to get him out of the hospital.
See, now that's the thing also, where when we look at our government and the need of the citizens of this country, does the government actually step in and prioritize needs? I want to ask you, so how long did your dad actually, and I'm going to use the past tense, guys, because unfortunately Patricia's father also passed away, which was my resident. And I want to ask, how long was your father in this long-term care for?
It would have been just over 5 years. August of last year would have been 5 years. So he passed away in February, so those couple of months, because he was in the hospital for 8 months.
So I want to ask you if you had, okay, before COVID, when you admitted your dad to this facility, did you have any concerns about the facility after being in there and seeing everything?
Well, what happened was originally, I was lucky that this particular facility was able to give me a tour the day that I went in. A lot of other places you had to do in advance. So I went in and I said, I'd like to book an appointment. They said, no, we can give you a tour now. But unfortunately, the rooms that were available were private and finances did not allow us. So the shared rooms were a longer wait list. However, having said that, I did put him in private. We managed to work that out while he was in there. Then eventually he got semi-private room.
So then, in other words, you're saying that this facility actually basically kind of also accommodated you. So then, in terms of care and in terms of care and concerns, like with care, were you skeptical in any way, shape, or form?
I have to say, because the fact that my father required 2 people. It wasn't just one PSW, it would be 2 people.
Right.
So having said that, when we went in, everything, the initial, everything was fine. Then I started to see how the system worked, still not realizing the difference between the profit and for-profit. To me, I thought they were all the same. But I did see a little bit of lack in the assistance only because he needed a little bit extra help. And shortage of staff, I felt that there wasn't enough.
And you're jumping the gun right here because right now I'm going to ask you the lack in care, so to speak. Would you basically blame that on the shortage of staff or the compromise of available hands, so to speak?
Available hands is a good way to put it. I think for a company as big as that and with that many residents, I think the numbers didn't match.
So you're saying the ratio of staff per resident, you'd say it's what would your, like, give me in your words, what would you say about ratio to ratio staff to residents?
I would say it's not enough. I work with children, kindergarten, we have ratios as well, right? It's different. However, these elderly people, these people who have some ailments, some that they cannot do by themselves, they need additional help.
And not to mention, from your dad's point of view, your dad was cognitive. That means he may not have been able body, but he was well-abled mind, right?
Yes.
And then that can cause a little bit of a complexity because he knew what he wanted, and then if the hands weren't there, then that individual become frustrated, right?
Absolutely.
And where do you think the failure, like, who do you feel failed whom?
Well, again, I think because of these companies, after realizing the difference between the for-profit, obviously for-profit is looking to put money in their pockets. And I felt that what's happening is the people that were there that needed the assistance, their profit was on their ailments. Like they're making money off of these poor people who have worked a long time, have contributed to their taxes, have done no harm in the community. My father was a sudden. 1 minute he was walking from a freak accident, he became completely paralyzed. He was independent, and now he's having to rely on everybody else to help him.
I can just imagine how one felt because you feel like you're basically trapped and imprisoned in your body. Think about wanting a glass of water and you know this mentally, but you cannot physically do that. Then that in itself is horrible to deal with. I want to jump ship a little bit and talk about, so we talk about your opinion about the company before COVID. I want to ask you now, when COVID came into existence, and then you've, I mean, it was on the news, you hear it everywhere, that you basically were going to be alienated. I would call it alienated because you weren't allowed to go into these facility. You're the only sort of companion your dad had, right? So when you heard the restrictions that came into place, and the government says that you're not allowed to go into the home, I want you to take us back to exactly what went on in your mind at that particular time. How did you feel?
I was devastated, also because talking about not enough help, I felt it was my part to spend a lot more time with my father. So I was there often, as you are aware, as a lot of people are aware. I didn't visit him once a month. I didn't visit him once a week at the beginning, because I saw that he was not really being provided with the care that I felt he needed. I was there all the time. There were weeks where I was there every single day. There was weeks that I was, yes, one day no, one day off, one day on, but I was there quite a bit, because I knew that he required that extra care. So now, having known that and being a part of it, and helping out with his feeding, with his changing, with whatever it is that he needed, knowing to go to zero, that he's locked in his room because of COVID. I know it was a new thing. It was new for everybody. Everybody was taken aback by this whole pandemic. But I think that they had to take the steps from public health. I understand that. But I'm sure there was a couple of little things they put in themselves too. How do we know what public health protocols they put into place?
Well, we knew because it's the government who basically sent these restriction down, and we heard it on the news and stuff like that. And I do understand why one would question a lot of things, because of the it's not really a steady thing, but one day you hear this, next day you hear that, so it's not like continuous in the conversation, so to speak, if that makes sense. But the thing that I wanted to know is also, we understand how you felt, but I want to know, and you're the only one who can tell us this, because I'm pretty sure that you must have had conversations with your dad. Like, how did he feel about not? I knew how he felt, but I want to know what, if you don't mind, the conversation that you and him have, not being able to come in and see dad and bring him his favorite this or his favorite that, you know.
It took a while to make him understand what was going on, even though he was all there mentally and he was listening to the news, to make him understand that it was for his protection, for all you people that work there, their protection, for our protection. But he felt very lonely. He felt that you're not coming to visit. Then they started the window visits. He did understand that, the window visits were there to keep everybody protected, but there was a lot of loneliness in his voice. I tried to call him, talk to him, and sometimes they would do the Skype, like
okay, so there were alternatives, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it was not the same in the touching and holding hands. And,
absolutely not.
And we as human beings, we need that kind of connection. Am I right?
Absolutely.
When one feels like isolated or segregated, so to speak, it gives a sense of like, what would I say? Like, you feel like you're locked away, secluded, and you're not a part of the general world, so to speak, right? And from his perspective, being in that bed, not able to walk or anything, one can only imagine how a resident, somebody like that would
feel. A prisoner.
Yes.
You feel like a prisoner in your own room.